Meaning of certain items specified services, online advertisement, any provision of digital advertisement space or any facility service or purpose of online advertisement, any other services that are notified by central government. In online means facility that the services or right to benefit access that is obtained through the internet or any other form of digital or telecommunication network. E-commerce supplier service means online sale of certain owned by e-commerce operator. Online provision of services provided by e-commerce operator. Online sale of goods and provision service are both facilitated by the e-commerce operator. Any combination of service activities listed in the clause 1, 2, 3, clause 3. Online sale of goods and online provision of services would include one of the following online activities: acceptance of an offer of sale, placing a purchase order, acceptance of purchase order, payment of consideration, supply of goods and service provision and services partly by wholly. Service include fee of technical fees or technical services included, fees of technical and fees of professional services as defined in section 194J of Income Tax 1961. Non-chargeability of EL and EL is a non-chargeability able where NR provides the specific services uh, under the PE permit establishment in India and specific services and effectively connected by permit establishment. Non-deduction of tax and source, non-chargeability of EL, and non-deduction of tax and source. The aggregate amount of such aggregate amount of consideration of specific services received by a previous year in a non-resident from the person of resident of India carrying on business and profession or from a non-resident having a permanent establishment in India does not exceed 1 lakh. And the payment of the specified service of the person resident in India is an permanent establishment in India is not about the purpose of carrying on the business or profession. The EL is not chargeable where e-commerce operator makes and provision of facilitating e-commerce supply business as and we in India and such e-commerce supply is effectively connected in PE where the EL is available in section 165. The sales turnover gross receipts on the sale may be e-commerce operator where e-commerce supply made to provision provided a facility of less than 2 crores during the previous year. No tax are required to be deducted under Section 194O in the case of some creditor, paid or e-commerce operator participant during the individual year where the gross amount of sales services are both during the previous year does not exceed 5 lakhs. In this comments and the e-commerce participant has furnished a PAN Aadhaar to e-commerce operator. Equalization levy on specific services. 6% of the amount consideration received or receivable for a specified service, meaning a specific service equal to online advertisement, provision of digital advertisements based on other facility services, and online advertisement or any other service notified by the government. By the non-resident, not having and permanent establishment in India, providing services not effectively connected with PU India. From a resident in India, carrying on business or profession from a non-resident or permanent as the aggregate amount of such consideration received or receivable specific services of by a non-resident exceed 1 lakh, then we already know then the equalization levy is not attracted as in more than 1 lakh. Equalization levies attract and the reduction of equalization levy. Equalization 6% of reduction in the consideration paid. Payable for specific services by a resident carrying on a services business. Provision non-resident having a payment assessment in India, remittance of equalization levy. The equalization levy during any amount paid and credited in the central government 7th of next month. Consequence of no failure to deduct. And the person liable to deduct equalization levy has to any case pay equalization levy to credit to the central government. Next month. Simple interest of 1% per month and the amount paid on month is attracted For a period of delay in the remittance. Penalty is equal to amount of equalization levy delay of remittance is equal to 1000 per day and facility attracted not exceeding amount of equalization levy is not paid as allowance of the consideration. Section 40 A. 40 A. The equalization levy on e-commerce supply or service as a 2% on the consideration receivable by an e-commerce operator, that is non-resident who owns and operates managed digital and economic facility to electronic facility to platform for sale of goods as are online or provision for services or both from an e-commerce supply or service made or provided or facilitated by, meaning e-commerce supply of service. Online sale of goods are owned by e-commerce supply operators. Online provision service provided by e-commerce operator. Online sale of goods are provided by the services of both provided by e-commerce operators. Or any combination activities are listed 1, 2, 3. To the end are specific sale of advertisement targeting customer residents in India or who access the advertisement to IP located in India. Sale of data collected from a person resident in India or who are using IPA internet protocol activity located in India. To a person resident in India to e-commerce supply or services made or provided or facilitated by it to a person who buys such goods or service or both using EPA located in India. Does the e-commerce operator has permanent establishment in India? No, not the equalization levy is attracting the sale of gross turnover e-commerce operator. E-commerce supplies services is more than 2 crores or more during the previous year. If the is the e-commerce operator or service provider, the e-commerce operator has permanent establishment in India. Yes, the e-commerce supply or service effectively connected with PES. Then incursion levy is not attracted. Payment of EL should be made every e-commerce operator on the credit of central government in the quarter of financial year 30 June, 30 September, 30 December, 30th March. Consequence of failure of pay the EL. The equalization levy to be under section 166A, simple interest of 1% per month, the part of the month attracted on the percentage of the period of delay remittance of the 170. Penalty is equal to amount of equalization levy that has failure to pay. Taxation of virtual digital asset. There has been a phenomenal increase in taxation of virtual digital asset. Further, the market is owning where the payment of transfer of virtual digital asset has made through another such asset. According to taxation of virtual digital asset, the scheme has been introduced by the Finance Act 2022, meaning a virtual digital asset. Any information code or number or token cannot be in Indian currency or foreign currency. Generated through cryptographic means, otherwise whichever name called, providing digital representative of value exchanged within the consideration without the promise of prescribed as a representation having an increased value. The function of store a value of account which is used in financial transaction or investment has not limited to investment schemes. It can be transferred or stored or traded electronically. Non-fungible token, any other token or similar nature of the whatever name column. The non-fungible token means the digital asset has been notified by the central government. According to the central government, we are noticed 7522 means that each June is 22. Specific tokens qualify to be virtual digital asset or non-fungible token. However, it shall not include non-fungible token that is transferred, result in the transfer of ownership underlying the tangible asset. Therefore, the ownership of the underlying tangible asset is legally enforceable. Any other digital asset has been notified by central government. However, the central government may be notified exclude digital asset from the definition of virtual digital asset subject to the specified condition. According to the central government, via notification 74/22 dated 30 June 2022, notified that the following virtual digital asset would be excluded from the definition of virtual digital asset. Gift card or vouchers being a record that may be used for obtain goods or services, discount on the goods and services. Mileage points, reward points, or loyalty cards are being record given without direct monetary consideration. Under any award or reward benefit, loyalty, incentives, rebate, promotion program that may be used or attention only to obtain goods and services or discount in the goods and services. Subscription to websites or platforms or applications that are exempted from the virtual digital assets. And the taxability of income from transfer of virtual digital asset section 115 BH rate of transfer of virtual digital asset where the total income of the assets include any income from buy on the transfer of any virtual assets. Such income would be treated as 30% under section 115 BH. No reduction allowed. The computation of income from the transfer of virtual digital asset, no reduction would be allowed under this provision of Act. In respect of the expenditure allowed, allowance except the cost of acquisition in any where there are no such set off or any losses allowed or associated from such income. Set off or carry forward loss of transfer of virtual asset are not allowed. The loss of transfer of virtual assets would not be allowed to be set off or against income computed under the provision of Act to be assessed, and such loss would not be allowed to be carried forward to succeeding assessment year. Virtual digital asset need not to be capital asset. Refine of transfer asset in section 247 would not apply to virtual asset for capital asset or not. Taxability of receipt of virtual assets or gift or for inadequate consideration. Section 56 2x. In order to transfer of virtual digital asset in the hands of recipient. Section 56 has been amended including virtual digital asset within the definition of property. According to the virtual digital asset is referred recipient under the any person from any person without consideration. Aggregate of fair value of virtual digital asset. The rate of receipt will be taxed on the income of recipient exceeding 15,000 in section 56 term. In aggregate, it is a definition between the aggregate fair value of other consideration exceeding 50,000 as a definition would be taxed as the income of recipient. However, the exclusion of the application section 56 2x will apply to a gift of virtual digital asset. For example, if virtual digital asset is received as a gift by individual from a relative, the value of the same should not be treated as income. TDS on the payment of transfer of virtual digital asset section 994 is. Applicability rate of TDS section 194 is requires any person who is responsible for paying of a resident to any resident any sum of any by way of consideration of transfer of virtual digital assets to deduct 1% TDS as a sum. Time of reduction to be made, the time of credit of the consideration, amount of residence at the time of payment, or such a sum must be whichever is earlier. Where the consideration is credited or any other amount on the goods of accounts of the person is liable to pay such sum credit sum is deemed to be credited, such sum is to be account of the payee and tax to be deducted. Source an account should be credited and credited and called a suspense account as the navy. In the case of consideration of transfer of virtual asset or was wholly kind of asset, partly in kind of partly in cash. In the case of consideration, transfer of virtual digital asset, wholly in kind and exchange of another virtual digital asset, where there is no part in cash. The partly in cash and partly in kind is a part of cash. It's not sufficient to meet the eligibility of deduction of TDS in respect of whole transfer of deduction. The person responsible for paying such consideration has to be before releasing the consideration. Consider the taxes required to be deducted has been paid in respect of such consideration for the transfer of digital asset. Non-applicability of TDS under Section 194 is no tax is required to be deducted under the Section 194 is where the consideration is payable by a person referred in the column 2 in a table below. The aggregate value of consideration during the financial year does not exceed the threshold limit of corresponding law. Consideration payable threshold limit specified person having being an individual achieved under family less than 50,000 whose total sale or gross receipt or turnover from the business or profession does not exceed 1 crore in the case of business of 50 lakhs in the case of profession during a financial year immediately preceding financial year achieve virtual digital assets and having an income of the income rate of profit or gains operation option other than specific person meaning about 1,10,000. Due date of remittance of the government account furnishing statements the TTS and 194 is particular specified person exchange any person particular so rule the date time of payment of government government account specified person 30 days from the date of the end of the deduction end of the month of the deduction exchange in the case of exchange any person in the exchange of any other person in the case of tax reduction March on or before 30th April in the case or on before 7 days from the end of the month deducted. Rule 31 furnishing the TDS return form 24 QE form 24 QB in the case of exchange and any other person 24 QB time 30 days from the date of month specified person in the case of exchange and any other person common or the exchange as any other person quarterly return 30 June, 30th June, 31st March, 30th March. So due date is 31st quarterly, 31st July, September 31st October, December 31st January, March 31st May. Rule 31 TDA certificate from the Form 16E to be furnished within 6 to 14 days from the date of furnish of TDS quarterly. Another person Form 16E to be furnished in 15 days from the date of furnishing TDS statement from Form 26QF. Q. Compute the income of tax payable in the Abhinav age 32 or the following income. Interest on fixed deposit and 110,000, interest on savings account 15,000, sources of consideration received by the virtual transfer as a transfer of 62,000, cost of acquisition 21,000, expense and transfer of 1,000. So 62,000 minus 7,000. Total income excluding VDA, including basic excluding 21. Total income of additional increase in income is of 41,000. Transfer of VDA is tax of 30% plus 4%. Total income including VDA less than basic exemption limit. And total income tax on total income that you must VDA is not expense. Section 194 is provided deduction of TDS to be made in which will does 1% consideration. Compare the total income tax payable in the Siddharth of I-24 who has income 24. Sale of income from salary 8,40,000, interest on savings bank 12,000, consideration received from the yarn VDA to the Mr. Harash 50,000. Eight lakh 40,000. Compute the income tax payable to the Raj like 32, who is following income business loss 3 lakhs income percent 18,000 consideration ED 40,000 cost of products. That's my income business loss and do set off the previous year. So my next subject will be cash set off carried out and then set off interest. Can be set off against the interest of 18,000. So as per section 112 easy business loss cannot be set off against the income by transfer or virtual transfer as a third of the business. Loss is 3 lakhs cannot be set off against VDA. So 4,20,000 minus 20,000 is 4 lakh. Out of that 31.2 percentage is 4 lakh is 124,000. And section 194 is in computer deduction of tax payment and as well as listeners as 1% is transfer deduction is 4 lakh 20,000 per 1 plus 4 lakh 4,200. So 1 lakh 24,000 minus 4,200 12,000 1 lakh 1 lakh 20,600. Non-applicable section 203 203 306 BAB was in the provision of the section 23A considering the requirement of obtaining TAN under section 26 AB require higher amount of TDS for non-filter of income tax return would not be applicable in the case of trans-specific clause. So applicable to section 194 in the case of transaction where the tax is deducted under 194 along with section 194S. The tax shall be deduction under section 194S not applicable for power of CBI to issue guidance in the case of difficulty arising on the effect of provision of section. CBI is empowers to issue the guidelines which is prior notification central government purpose of removal of difficulty. Every guidelines issued by CBI shall be laid before the House of Parliament and shall binding on the income tax authority on the person responsible for paying consideration transfer of virtual assets. According to the CBIC has been prior approval of central government via circular 13/22/22 issued the following guidelines. The guidelines would apply only in the cases where the transfer of virtual assets is transfer place or e-commerce operator in the provision of section 194 should apply and so the guidance and the compute and the clarification of the quantum apply. Who is required to treat tax and transfer virtual transfer asset is placed on through the e-com exchange and payment is made by a purchaser to exchange from the exchange goes to seller. Section 194 is any person who is responsible paying to the resident any sum by way of consideration or transfer of virtual transfer asset is required to deduct interest. There is peer-to-peer transaction or the buyer person require consideration required to deduct TDS and Section 194. The tax deducted is required to be deposited into the government account according with the time and the production produce as prescribed by the Act, read with the relevant provision of Income Tax 1962. After deduction, the deductor it is required to furnish a quarterly return of Form 24Q for all the transactions which is quarter run before the due date prescribed with the Income Tax 1962. For a specified person, Section 24QE has been included. It may be clarified that TTS would not be considered for transfer of virtual transfer asset like GST, clarifying CGST circular 1422 or data 28 622 for all other transactions not conducted or through exchange. However, if a transaction is taking place or through an exchange, there is a possibility of tax reduction required to be Section 194 is of multiple stages. However, hence, in order to remove the difficulty for transaction taking place or through the exchange, the following clarification has been issued by CBDT. In the case a transfer of virtual transfer asset takes place or through an exchange of virtual transfer asset being transferred or owned by a person other than exchange. For example, the buyer would be crediting or making payment to the exchange, as an exchange then would require to credit the amount payment to the owner of virtual transfer asset being transferred either directly or through broker. Since there is a multiple player, to remove the difficulty has been clarified that a tax may be deducted under Section 194 is only by the exchanger which is crediting the making the payment of seller. The owner of which virtual digital asset has been transferred. In the case of the broker who owns a virtual digital asset, it is a broker who is seller. Hence, the amount is considering being credited or paid to the broker by the exchange who is subject to the tax deducted under Section 194. In the case where the credit payment between exchange or seller through broker or a broker responsible for related source under Section 194A shall be both exchange or broker. However, when a return agreement between exchange and broker shall be deduct tax and the credit the payment. Then the broker alone may deduct the tax under Section 194. The exchanger would be required to furnish a quarterly return action Form 26QF or any other transfer of the quarterly or before the date of recipient of income tax rules to 1962. In the case where the transfer of virtual digital asset takes place through the exchange and virtual digital asset being transferred owned by the exchange. In the case there are no virtual the buyer is required to deduct TTS under Section 194 is. However, there may be particular issue of buyer not there. Therefore, the virtual digital asset being transferred is owned by the exchange or not. Hence, it may be genuinely doubt in the mind of buyers and regarding to the responsibility of deduction at source under Section 194 is. This difficulty would be there. The buyer is buying the virtual digital asset from the exchange through broker. To remove the difficulty, it has been clarified that while primarily responsible for deductor tax at SOPO Section 194 is, in the case remain where the buyer and broker as alternative of exchange may enter into return arrangement with the buyer as the case of broker which is to sell all transaction. The exchange would be buying the tax on before the due date of quarter. The exchange would be required to furnish a quarterly statement and a Form 26QF for all the transactions in the quarter on before due date of prescribed the income tax rule 1962. The exchange would also require to furnish income tax return. All the following transactions must be included. If the conditions are compliant, the buyer as a broker would not be held up accessory to default Section 201 false transaction naming of certain conditions. The term exchange means any person operates or application of the platform transaction of virtual digital asset. This matches both buying and selling of trades and executes the same as the application of platform. Term broker means a person that operates or applicable on platform transferring a virtual digital asset over the broker accounts of exchange of execution of such trades. Question 2. On the question 1, with the respect of the transaction where the consideration of transfer of virtual digital asset is not in kind, how the operator is situation where the kind of exchange is another virtual digital asset. In such a situation, the buyer will release a consideration is kind, other seller provide a proof of payment such tax. etc. The situation virtual digital asset is being exchanged for another virtual digital asset. Both the person is a buyer as well as seller. One buyer A and seller is a B, another buyer B and seller E. Thus, both need to pay tax with respect of transfer of virtual digital asset. So, the required to be reported in the TDA statement along with an channel number. Form 24Q has included provision for providing such a transaction and specified person from the 24Q and introduction. Also clarified by CBDT Circular Number 1422 dated 26/6/2022. Other transfer is not conducted as on through exchange. However, the transaction is through exchange. There is a practical issue is implementing this provision. In order to address the practical issue or to remove the difficulties, clarified that such situation as an alternative tax may be deducted by the exchange. Such alternative mechanism can be exchanged by the exchange based on the return contractual agreement with the buyer and seller. If such alternate mechanism exists, the exchanger would be required to deduct TDS or both the legs of the transaction and pay to the government. Form 26Q will be needed to report and such tax deducted on the both legs of transaction. Buyer seller would not be independently required to follow the procedure prescribed in the provision of Section 194A. Ensure that the tax required to be deducted as paid by such other party before releasing the consideration. A tax withheld in the calendar as 194 years and converted to INR shall be deposited in the government account as a timeline and process given by the Income Tax Rule 1962. It has been clarified that there would not be any further TDS for converting the tax withhold and any valid virtual digital asset into INR from one virtual digital asset to another virtual digital asset and then to INR. Question 3. Where the provision of Section 194Q is also applicable on a transfer of virtual digital asset. Without going into the merit where virtual digital asset is a goods or not, it is clarified that once a tax is deducted under Section 194, yes, tax would not require to be deducted under Section 194Q. Also clarify that CBTC via notification 14/2022 dated 28 June 2022 from the other transaction also not conducted on or before exchanges. Question 4. Where the consideration for transfer of virtual digital asset shall be cross basis after including GST, concluding GST or commission. It shall be net basis after conclusion of this item. In order to remove difficulties, clarify the tax required to be withheld under Section 194 years shall be a net base net consideration after excluding GST charges levied by the deductor to on rendering services. In transaction where payment is being carried out through payment gateway, where any of the tax reduction twice. Illustration of person XYZ is required to make payment to the seller of transfer of virtual digital asset. He makes payment of 1 lakh through digital payment of ABC on the fact liable to deduction action section 1 yes may be for both the XYZ or ABC limited. To taxes required to be deducted both. In order to remove the difficulty, it is provided that in the above example, the payment gateway will not be required to deduct TDS and Section 194 action transaction. The taxes has been deducted by the person XYZ is required to make reduction under the Section 194 hence above action. XYZ has deducted tax under Section 194 on 1 lakh and ABC will not be required to deduct tax and only on the same transaction. The facility of proper implement of ABC made through an understanding of XYZ regarding direction of tax. Charge of GST section number about the chapter pertaining to section GST Act 2017 analyze other specific examples, illustration, questions and questions given chapter based on the position of GST system law. After studying chapter, you will be able to explain the extent of e-commerce, GST, IGST, SGST, UTI, GST. Describe the provision pertaining to the levy and collection of CGST, IGST. Identify and analyze the services on which tax is payable under the reverse charge mechanism. Comprehensive to analyze composite levy eligibility, some of the conditions to be fulfilled. Introduction. The power to levy tax is drawn from the Constitution of India to pave a way of the introduction of GST goods and service tax. 101 Constitution Amendment of 2016 was passed. The virtue of the asset enabled in the provision was made levy of GST on the supply of goods and services both in India The central excise duty state we have had a certain tax specific law, tax and service tax would be some new other commands of GST. It's a very basis of charge of tax being having tax state use in the tax liable. That is occurrence of which are triggered by a of tax. The discussion of earlier occurrence of the event which triggers the levy of tax as discussed earlier. The taxable event in the GST is supply. Discussed in chapter 1 supply of GST is a module of material. And see GST as GST levied by all the interstate supplies and goods and services of IGST levied in interstate supplies and goods and services. The provision of relation to levy in collection of CGST and IGST is contained in Section 9 of CGST Act 2017 and Section 5 of IGST Act 2017 respectively. Let us now understand the fundamental idea of intrastate supplies and interstate supply. As a general rule, where the location of the supplier and place of supply of goods and goods are the same union, it as the interstate supply and goods and services respectively. Similar, where the location of supply is a place of supply is a goods or services, two different states or two different union territory on a state or union territory is called interstate supply, goods and supply respectively. The concept of place of supply, meaning location of the supplier, has been elaborated in the next chapter and the chapter 3. The place of supply is a module of study material consequently, and the meaning means to interstate supply and interstate supply. The interstate supply and intrastate supply has been explained in the detail next chapter. Relevant for definition: central tax, integrated tax, state tax. Central tax means a central goods and services tax levied in section 9 of ICGST section 2(1). Integrated tax means integrated goods or services levied under the Integrated Goods and Services Act section 250. State tax means the tax levied under the state goods and service tax of section 2(1) class 4, which means any kind of movable property other than money or security, but includes actionable claims, growing crops, grasses, things attached to form part of the land which is agreed to be sold before the supply. Other contracts of supply section 252. Aggregated turnover means aggregate value of all taxable service excluding the value of inter-supply on which tax is payable by the person or person basis. Exempted supply, export of goods or service, both interstate supplies. A person having a same permit account for computing of all India basis but excluding central tax, state tax, union territory, integrated tax and section 2 class 6. Customs Frontier of India means a limit of customs area section 2 class 4 of Indian IGST Act. The customs area is the area of customs station or a warehouse including the area which import of goods and export of goods ordinarily kept by the clearance of customs authority section 2 class 4, 4 level of the customs act 1962. Non-taxable online recipient means any registered person receiving online information and database access or retrieval of service located in taxable territory. Explanation for the purpose of the clause of expression of our unregistered person, including a person registered solely in terms of section 2 class 426 of CGST Act 2017 and Surface 2016 IGST Act 2017. Prescribed means prescribed by the rules made under the Act on the recommendation of the Council of 2 class 87. Registered person means a person who is registered under section 25 but does not include a person having a unique identification number section 2 class 94. Reverse charge means a liability to pay tax by the recipient of supply of goods and services or both instead of supplier of such goods and services both under section 93-94 under section 53-54 of IGST Act of section 2 class 19. Services means anything under the goods, payments, or securities, but includes activities relating to the use of money, conversion of cash, other mode, or any other form of currency denomination to another form currency denomination for the separation considerations charged in section 2 class 1 or 2. Explanation for the removal of doubts is nearby clarified that expression of service include facilitation of arrangement of transactions activities. Supply relation to the any goods and services of both of means supply person supply sales goods and services both shall include agency acting on the behalf of the supplier in relation to the goods and services both separate. Taxable supply means a person goods and services which is leviable to tax under section CGST Act And Section 2, Class 108. Non-taxable supply means supplying goods or service both which is not liable tax under the CGST Act and the IGST Registry of 2017. Taxable person means a person who is registered and liable to be registered under Section 22 or 24 of CGST Act, Section 2, Class 107. It is important to note that the person is liable to be registered but does not take registration remains unregistered person shall be constituted as a taxable person. Similarly, a person is not liable to register but takes a voluntary registration and got himself registered also a taxable person. Section 22 enumerates a person liable to be registered under CGST, and Section 24 list of person liable to be registered compulsory under GST. The said section and concept of taxable person therefore has been discussed detailed in chapter 8 of the registration module of 2 of some ready material. Recipient sale of goods or services means where a consideration is payable for the supply of goods or services or both. The person who is liable to pay that consideration, where no consideration is payable for the supply of goods, the person is to whom the goods is delivered or made available, not to whom possession or use of goods is given and made available, and where no consideration is payable for the supply of services, the person to whom services are rendered. Any reference to the person to whom supply is made shall be constituted a reference to the recipient of supply and shall include the agent acting on behalf of the recipient in relation to the goods or service of both supply. Section 2, Class 93. Extent of commencement of GST law. Central Goods and Services Act 1917 extend the whole of India. Section 1 of the GST. India includes Section 2, Class 56 GST Act. Territory of India refer to the Article 1 of Constitution. A territory of water, sea bed, subsoil underlying the water's constitutional shelf, exclusive economic zone, or any other maritime zone refer to the territorial water. Constitution shelf, exclusive economic zones, or maritime zones at 1976. Airspace above its territory and territory water. A baseline territory water up to 12 nautical miles contiguous contiguous zone 24 nautical miles exclusive economic zone up to 200 nautical miles, and under that constitutional shelf up to that it's applicable. State GST law. Respective of state, union tax and legislation for Delhi, Pondicherry, and Jammu and Kashmir extend to whole of state and union. The Maharashtra GST Act 2017 extend to whole of the state of Maharashtra. State include union territory of legislation under the last 104 of CGST Act. Integrate goods and service tax 19 extend whole of India. Section 1 of IGST Act. Union Territory of Goods and Service Tax Act 2017 extend to Union Territory of Union Territory Andaman Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep and Darka. Andaman Nicobar Island, Lakshadweep. Union Territory Lakshadweep, Dakhra and Nagar Havela, Daman, Lakshadweep, Chhattisgarh, Ladakh, other territory of United Territory of without legislation under UTGST. Union Territory means Andaman Nicobar Islands, Union Territory, Lakshadweep, Union Territory, Dagra and Nagar Haveli and Dakhar Nawadi, Union Territory, Ladakh and Chhattisgarh Union Territory, and other territory. For the purpose of this act, each of the territory specified in the Annex Clause 1 territory shall be considered separate to be Union Territory under Section 2, Clause 14. Our discussion to study material principle to confined in the provision of CGST, GST, and also in the Copper syllabus. The students may note that the East in the state of Jammu and Kashmir reorganized into the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir with the legislation Union Territory of Ladakh, while Jammu and Kashmir reorganized in 2019. Further, the Eastern While Union Territory of Dakhra Nagar Hawal, Daman and Diu has merged into new union territory, Dahra, Nagar Hawal, Daman of and Diu 19. Levy in collection of CGST, IGST, Section 9 of CGST Act, Section 5 of IGST Act. Statutory provision, Section 9 of CGST Act, levy in collection. Subsection. Subject to the provision of subsection 2, there shall be levy tax on central goods and service tax on all the interstate supplies and goods and service or both, except on the supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption on the value determined in section 15 on such a rate not exceeding 20% as the may be notified by the government on recommendation of the council and collection of the manner as may be prescribed and shall be paid by taxable person. A central tax to supply of petroleum, crude, high-speed diesel, motor spread, common known as petrol, natural gas, aviation, turbine fuel shall be levied and effect of such a date of such notified government or the recommendation of council. Government may be or recommendation of the council by notification to specific categories of player of service both which may be paid or reversed as basis on recipient of goods and service both on the provision of the act shall be applying the recipient of it the person liable for paying tax in respect of the supply of goods and service or both. The government made the recommendation of the council by notification specific class of registered person who share in respect of supply of specific category of goods and service both received from the unregistered person and any may tax on the reverse charge basis as a recipient of the goods and services of both and all the provision of the actum shall apply on such recipient if the person liable to pay tax in the relation to the supply of goods and services of both. Section 5 of IGST Act of 17 levy on supply act IGST మా మీన్ వేణుమా మీన్ కారంగా subject to provision section 2, there shall be a levy of tax called integrated goods and service on interstate supply of goods and service of both, except on the supply of alcoholic liquor from human consumption. The value determined for under section 15 of central goods and service tax as such rates not exceeding the 40 percentage can be notified by the government and recommendation of state accommodation 40% as may be notified by the government recommendation of the council in collection such manner as may be prescribed by the person taxable person. Provided IGST of goods imported in India shall be liable to the collection in accordance with the provision of Section 3 Customs Tariff Act 1975 and levy or determination of such act as said may be duties of customs are levied on such goods at Section 12 of the Customs Tariff Act. IGST tax on supply of petrol, crude oil, high-speed diesel, motor spread, common known as petroleum, natural gas, aviation, turbine fuel shall be levied with the effect of the date as may be notified by the government or recommendation of the council. The government may by the recommendation one recommendation by the council notified to specific categories, supply of goods and service, both tax on shall be paid on reverse charge basis, and which goods and services both of our provision of the act shall apply to the recipient of this person liable to pay tax in relation to the supply of such goods and services of both. Government may a recommendation on the council by notification specify the class of registered person who shall in respect of the supplies and specified categories of goods and services are both received from unregistered person or pay tax and reverse charge mechanism as the recipient of such supply of goods and services are both as the provision of the act shall apply to such a recipient as if the goods liable to pay of tax in relation to such goods such a supply of goods and services are both. Analysis goods and services of services section the GST levied on the interstate goods and supplies. The tax shall collected in the manner as may be prescribed and shall be paid by a taxable person. However, interstate supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption is outside the purview of CGST. The value of levy transaction and apply under value under section 15 of the CGST Act discussed in the chapter 6 value of supply in the module of study material. Rates of CGST. The rate of CGST rate as may be notified by the government on the recommendation of the state GST Council. Discuss subsequently sector maximum the rate of CGST can be 20 lakhs. 20%. In the case of interstate supplies and goods and services, integrated goods and services, live on the transaction value under the section 15 of the GST against the alcoholic liquor of the human consumptions outside the preview of the GST. IGST is not level on the same. The IGST of the same supply of goods, GST and IGST maximum rate of IGST is 40%. However, CGST SDS supply of following terms added not levied in the shall be levied in the effect of this deal as may be notified by the government on the recommendation of Council Petroleum Crude Oil. High speed petroleum crude, high speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas, and aviation turbine fuel. Then goods imported into India. All imports on the deemed to be interstate supply according to the IGST shall be levied on the import goods and action of the applicable to customs duty. The integrated goods or tax on goods and imported in India shall be levied and corrected in accordance with the provision of Customs Tariff Act 1975. Value of the determination under Section this Act as may be points and duties of customs and levied on such goods and Customs Act 1962. IGST point integrated goods and state goods shall be addition to the customs duty BCD, which is levied by the customs tariff act in addition to the GST compensation as may be levied in certain luxury or demerit goods under the Goods and Service Tax Act of 2017. A reverse charge mechanism CGST IGST shall be paid by the recipient goods and service of both and reverse charge mechanism of the following cases. The supply of the goods and service of both notified by the government recommendation of the GST Council. Supply of specific category of goods and services both by unregistered person. A specific class of registered person is notified by the government or a recommendation of GST Council. All the provision of the GST, IGST shall apply to the recipient of the person paying as if the person liable to paying the tax in relation to the person of goods and service. And understand the concept of reversal mechanism. Generally, the supplier of goods and services is liable to pay GST. However, under the reverse charge mechanism, liable to pay GST in the case of recipient of goods and services. A reverse charge that means liability to pay tax on the recipient of goods and supply of goods and services instead of a supplier of the goods and services with respect of this notified category. It may be notified by the underlying principle of indirect tax and burden of tax has been ultimately passed to the recipient. GST tax or indirect tax is the principal holds GST goods on GST. Under the normal circumstances, the statutory liability to deposit GST and undertake compliance, that is, obtain registration under GST, deposit the tax with the government, filing the return, etc., is on the supplier while he having recovered the same from the recipient. However, under the reverse charge mechanism, the statutory liability to deposit GST and undertaking the complaints requirement to be obtained registration of the GST and deposit tax with the government and file return shift to the supplier to the recipient. There are two types of reverse charge scenarios provisioned by the law. The first scenario occurs if the supplier of a specified category of goods and services covered in Section 9, Class 3 of CGST, SGST, UTGST Acts. Similar provisions are contained under Sections 5, Class 3 of IGST Act. The second scenario when supply of goods or category goods and services made by the unregistered person to a specified class of registered person covered under Section 54 and for Class 4 of the CGST Act. Similar provision contained under the Section 5 Class 4 of the IGST Act. Goods and services notified under these have been discussed subsequently in this chapter. Goods and services notified under the reverse charge mechanism. Under Section 9 Class 3 of CGST and Section 5 Clause 3 of IGST Act as follows. Supplier of goods taxable under reverse mechanism. Supplier of goods where the services the taxes are applied to the recipient. Goods like cashew nuts, nut shell or peel, bay wrap leaves, tobacco leaves, raw cotton when supplied by an agriculturist to a registered person. Supply of a lottery ticket are supplied by the state government, union territory, or local authority to lottery distributor selling agency. A silk yarn when supplier by manufacturer of silk yarn to a registered person. Silk yarn supplied by manufacturer of silk yarn to such a vehicle seized and confiscated goods are used vehicles. Seized and confiscated goods, old and used goods, waste and scrap bin supplied by central government, state government, union territory, or any other local authority, any registered person. Priority sector lending certificate when subject to supplied by the registered person to a registered person that become taxable under reverse mechanism. Supply of service taxable under the reverse charge mechanism section 9 subclass 3 of CGST Act, which is services which is taxable by the recipient notified by section 13 2017. And this amendment of notified following categories of supply of services wherein the whole of tax shall be paid reverse charge mechanism recipient could serial number category of supply of services supplier of services recipient of services supply of services up to GTE in respect of transportation of goods by road any factory registered under the example of the goods which is taxable is payable by the recipient under the reverse charge basis must be given here under knowledge of students that is are relevant for the examination purpose. Government governed by the Factories Act 1948. Factory, any other factory registered under the government and whatever, any other society registered under the Society Register Act 1980 or any other law time being was any other cooperative society established under the any other person registered under CGST, IGST, any other CSGST, IGTC, any body corporate established by any other law, any proprietorship form which is registered under on being any other law, including associated person or any casual taxable person. Supplier of services, coach, transported agency, please refer to analysis of subsequently. A recipient of service, any factory registered under the codes. Agency governed by the Factories Act 1940, any other society registered under the Society Register Act 1980, 1980, any other law time being in force of any other part of India, any other cooperatives or society established by another law, any person registered under the IGST. SGST or UTGST, any body corporate established under any other law, any partnership whom is registered under any other law, including associate person, any other casual taxable person located in the taxable territory, hence referred to the specific person. However, the reverse charge mechanism shall not apply to service provided by GTE by way of transport goods and goods carried by the road to a department established by central government, state government, union territory, local authority, government agencies who has registered under the CGST Act only by the purpose of reduction of tax on the person of even not being taxable goods and services. Further, nothing contained in the entry shall where the supplier has registered under the CGST Act 2017 and excise the option to pay tax and excise to service by GTE to relation to the transport of goods and services by way of forward charge. Supplier has issued a tax invoice as a recipient charging CGST applicable to each and has been prescribed by the declaration and such invoice issued by him. Service provided by the individual advocate, including senior advocate or a firm of advocates, by a legal service directly. Indirect legal service means any service provided by the relation to the advice, consultant, assistance, or branch of law, as a matter may be including representation of service before the court or tribunal authority. Individual advocate, including senior advocate or firm of advocates. Any person entity acquired in the taxable territory, any business entity. These services may be simultaneously exempted from GST via Entry 21B Notification 1227 28 6 2017. There shall be no tax liability in the case. Further exemption of GST is a module of study material discussed on the exemption. Service applied by an arbitration tribunal to one business entity. An arbitration tribunal, a business entity of current taxable territory. Service by provided by and sponsorship to a body corporate or partnership firm. Any person, a body corporate partnership firm are located in the taxable territory. They need to be level sarcasm. Services are applied by central government, state government, union government, local authority to business entity, excluding rental of immovable property, excluding service specified and service by a department of post, excluding service relation to the aircraft vessel inside outside the precincts of the port or airport, excluding the transport of goods and services. Central government, state government, union territory, any vessel located which need to be service supplied by the state government, union territory, territorial union, local authority, renting of immovable property to person registered under the GST Act. Central government, state government, union territory, local authority, any person registered under the GST Act under the Section 21 vessel mechanism. Service by way of renting of residential dwelling to registered person, any person and a registered person to be in the business mechanism. Service supplied by an supplied service supplied by the person by way of transfer of development rights, TTR, floor space index, FSI, including additional FSI for construction of the project of promoters, any person, only promoter. A long-term lease of land 30 years or more for any person against the consideration form of upfront amount called premium, Somali cost, price, development charges, or any other name or any other periodic rent of construction of project of promoter. Any person promoter need to pay supply of TDS, FRI, long-term lease premium land by a landowner development of exempted subject to condition that is constructed flats are sold before issuance of complaints applicant tax paid in the tax exemption of TDR, FSI, long-term lease premium withdrawn in case of flat sold after issue of complete certificate. Such individual shall limit to 1% of total value in the case of opposite houses, 5% of the value of opposite houses, but withdrawal shall be such cases a liability of pay of TDS, tax on FDI, FSA, long-term premium shall be shifted from landowner to builder and a reverses mechanism illustration of tax below. A person services supplied by a director of a company, body corporate to such company, service director by a director of the company or body corporate. Please have analysis subsequently the company or body located in the taxable in the tax. Service applied by an insurance agency. By person carrying on insurance agency, any insurance agent to person carrying on insurance business located in a taxable person. Database actions are service provided by and recovery agent, the banking companies, a financial institution, or non-banking financial institution. Recovery agent, the banking companies, a financial institution, or non-banking financial institution of field taxable territory. The supply of service by a music composer, photographer, artist, or the likely be of transfer of permitted use of enjoyment of copyright covered under the section 13(1)(e). Copyright at 1971 relation to the original dramatic, musical, artistic work to music company, producer of the like. Supply service of music composer, photographer, artist, or recipient service of music company, producer to the like located accident and the need to be tax. Kind of supply service. Supply of service by author by way of transfer or permitted to use enjoyment of copyright covered under section 13(1)(e). Copyright 1957 and 1957 ordinary literacy work to be participant. Author recipient of supply allocated taxable services. However, the author can choose to pay tax under the forward charge It may be taken consider registration of GST Act, filed declaration, the prescribed form, the exercising the option to pay GST in the pay service under the forward charge in accordance with the section 9 comply with the provision of the act to the person liable to the tax. The license to the supply of goods and services that he shall not withdraw the option of section 1 year from the date of exercising the portion. He shall declare that invoices are issued by the him prescribed and the prescribed. The supply of service by members of overseeing committees or rewards as Reserve of Bank of India. Members of overseeing committee issued by the RBI and RBI. Service supplied by the individual direct selling agency and other body corporate partnership, a limited liability partnership LLP or firm to bank or non-banking financial company NBFCs. Individual direct selling agency DSC other than a body corporate partnership, non-banking financial credit obligated. Service provided by a business facilitator to banking facility. Business facilitator, recipient of services, banking companies located in the taxable territory. Service provided by agent of business correspondent or business correspondent. Supply of service is a agent of business correspondent receives business correspondent located in taxable territory. Security supply service supply of security personal security provided by the registered person. However, nothing contained in the entity supply department established a central government, state government, unitary local authority, government agency which has taken registration as a GST Act only purpose of section 51 other than and may not making taxable supply of services a registered person paying tax under the provision scheme. Then any person other than body corporate registered person located in taxable territory. Service provided by way of renting of motor vehicle designed by carrying passenger. Now the cost of a fuel is included in the consideration. Charging from the assigned to carry passenger of cost of fuel included in the consideration charge and the service provided by the body corporate. Any person other than body corporate who supply service to body corporate doesn't issue any invoice charging GST. Bank doesn't invoice of HGST at 6% to the service recipient. A body corporate located in the taxable territory. A service of lending a securities lending act 1977 scheme Security Exchange Board of India has amended an elder that is a person whose deposit securities registered in the name or name of the other person who duly authorized on his behalf with his appropriate intermediate for purpose of lending under scheme SAB. A borrower that is a person who has borrowed securities under the scheme through the approved intermediate SAB. All the above cases services has been notified by the reverse charge GST Act notification 1023 dated 28/03 as amended the addition therein the following additional service also notified by the notification reversed under the IGST Act. Serial number, category of supplier of service, supplier of service, recipient of service. Any service supplied by a person who is located in a non-taxable territory to a person who is in a other than a non-taxable territory, only recipient. Any person located in a non-taxable territory service supplier recipient. Any person located in taxable territory other than non-taxable only recipient. Other than definition. So service supplied by a person located in a non-taxable territory by of transportation of goods from a place outside India up to a customs station for clearance in India. A person located in non-taxable territory. Importer located in a taxable territory. Importer is in relation to the goods or any other time between importation or time between clearance of home consumption, including any other owner, beneficial owner of any person holding himself out for to be importer. Section 226 of Customs Act. In relation to the goods of any time between the importation or time when the time when they cleared home consumption, including any other owner, beneficial owner of a person holding himself out for the importation. For purpose of this service, as following explanation shall be applied. The person who pays a liability of pay freight for transportation of goods, road or good carriage, okay, in taxable territory should be treated as a person who is receive a service from the purpose of notification. Body corporate has been more meaning of assigned to clause 11. Section 2 of Companies Act 2013. As per Section 2 of Companies Act 2013, body corporate including companies incorporated outside India but does not include cooperative society registered under the law time being for cooperative societies or any other body corporate not being company definition act, central government may be notified by this will become a business entity located in a taxable territory who is an litigant, applicant, petitioner, or any as may be shall be treated as a person who receives legal services on the special purpose of this notification. The words are expression used are not defined in the rules of notification but defined as a GST and IGST or DGST Act shall have same meaning of assigned to those act. A limited liability partnership form registered under the provision of the limited liability partnership Act shall also consider the partnership forms or the form. The insurance agent means the insurance agent usually insured under the section 42 of Insurance Act 1938 who receives agree to receive payment of fee of commission or any other remuneration consideration of soliciting or procuring insurance business including business relation to the constitution renewal of receivable policies insurance and the certain insurance at 1938. Renting of immobile property means allowing, permitting, granting access entity occupying use or facility wholly or part in the immobile property without the transfer of possession or control of said immobile property, including letting or leasing of licensing or any other arrangement service of immobile property. The provision of reverse charges are notification as far as the supply of central government, state government shall be applied to Parliament, Judicial Court of Tribunals.